Hello, and welcome back to Empowered to Lead, the Therapist podcast. I am your host, Lisa Catello, and I am so glad that you have joined me here today. Today, we are going to talk about retreats. And this is something that is very near and dear to my heart, something that I'm very passionate about as a therapist, as a group practice owner, as a coach to those who are running a mental health group practice. And just wanted to share a little bit of my experience, some of the reasons why I'm passionate about that, and then to find out from you if you go to retreats or participate in them. So one of the reasons this is top of mind is that I just came back from a retreat that was hosted by Retreat Season that Nicole Ripley and Chantel Froats run. And they do an excellent job of retreats for therapists individually, and then they've done a couple for group practice owners. This one was in Crete, Greece, and specifically we were in Hania. I have never been to Greece before. The whole experience was so cool to just go through all of the travel, seeing the beauty of Greece, and at the core of it, the purpose of being there is meeting with other group practice owners. So primarily Canadians, there were some Americans there. So there's that commonality there. And then just to dig into being able to talk shop for a week and not having anybody roll their eyes at you, connecting with old friends and new faces. It just was incredible. Being in that space with other leaders, you get to hear about how they run their practice, what they track, what they're focusing on next, how they're growing, how they're maybe staying the same. And it just lights up something for me. One of the things that really stuck out to me was more in the casual conversations. So hearing somebody share about the different projects that her group is doing and the way that she has engaged her team in doing that and participating in reaching out to the community really inspired me because of the team atmosphere that she has created. And then another training, Nicole did a class on, or a workshop on metrics. And this is something that is always something that I'm wanting to learn and grow from, and how do other people do that? And so the takeaway in there for me was you don't have to do all of the metrics. You can focus in on the things that you really understand and want to understand how you want to grow your business from. But it doesn't have to be something overwhelming where it's all math and I don't know what the heck I'm talking about or what I'm tracking. And so some of it is inspiring to how do I want to do better? And some of it is inspiring for I'm actually doing really well. And that's some of the feedback that I heard from a couple of the participants is that when they came, they weren't entirely sure where they stood with their practice and where did they need to change or do better. And it was just affirmation that they are doing really well. And maybe there's a few tweaks in there that they could do. But just like, yes, I'm doing this and I'm connecting and I'm learning more about myself as a leader. And so what happens when you go on retreat? Does it have to be something that is this big event to go to Greece or Costa Rica or anywhere around the world? Or can it be something that is just an individual thing? And I think there are different types of retreats that you can go on, different purposes and different stages in your life as a leader. One of the things that I love about group retreats, attending them with other group practice owners, is just that connection that happens. So if you hear anything as you listen to my podcast and as you work with me, I am all about connection. I think that when we become therapists, a lot of us feel like our world gets small. And then you enter into owning a business and being a small group being a group practice owner, and your world gets even smaller. And I hear this so often that I feel alone as a group practice owner. My family doesn't want to hear me talk about business all the time. Other therapists feel threatened by me, or I'm their boss, or other people in our area don't want to share in case they lose clients or therapists. And so it can feel very lonely. When you get away and connect with other people in retreats, you hear the same kind of struggles. You hear some of the same successes. You get to hear that you are not an anomaly, that there are other people that think and do things the way that you do, and you can get encouragement. One of the things, too, that has been cool, a year and a half ago, retreat season did a retreat in Costa Rica. And there were, I forget how many there were of us there, a core group of Canadian group practice owners. And then a lot of those people came to Greece. So then it's also about reconnection. So not just meeting new people, but reconnecting. How did you do this? How did that go? And being seen in that way as well. And I found that in the retreats that I run as well. So my retreats are Canadian based. And we're going through the different provinces in the country, and there are a consistent group of people who attend. And what happens there is not only do you connect at that special set aside time, but you also connect outside of that. So what I loved about the Whistler retreat that we just had in the spring was that I heard that these people had grown friendships and they wanted to room together because they wanted to connect some more. And so not only does your world get a little bit bigger, you don't feel so lonely, but there's connection and growth and friendship that happens outside of the retreat as well. One of the things that also happens in retreat is that growth happens. Whether you are on your own or a local retreat or international, setting aside that time for you to just focus in on what you need to focus in, attend a retreat that is teaching a specific thing that you want to learn about leadership and about yourself as a group practice owner. We don't do that. That's another thing that I heard in Greece, is that I don't set aside time for myself on a regular basis. So to go and say, I'm taking 4 or 5 days just for me, and I'm going to dig into this thing that I am building and growing, this group practice, my business, but also myself as a leader, it just has such an impact. I have found that every time that I set aside time for a retreat, I walk away refreshed. I am a better business owner. I have a clearer vision for where I want to go. And I have a little more patience for everybody around me, whether it's family or people who are working for me. So what are the 3 kinds of retreats that you could engage in? I'm sure there are more that you might think of, but I'm going to focus on 3 here today. So started talking about the international retreat. So this is something that you may want to participate in order to bring your family along, sometimes in order to gain a new and different kind of experience. Going outside of the country can be something that takes you completely out of your routine. It's a new environment. Quite often it's a slower pace, and it just can free up your ability to do some big picture thinking. And also it literally takes you out of your environment and makes you a little uncomfortable. It stretches you out of your regular routine, and typically you would do that kind of retreat with other people. So it is a time, like I said already, for connection, to know that you're not alone, but it's also connection internally and with your vision, remembering why you started your group practice in the first place, and really honing in on where do I want this to go. And that happens through the teaching that occurs and the workshops that you attend, but it also happens in the quiet time. So I actually would really encourage you that no matter which retreat you consider, setting aside time in that time to just really sit down with a pen and paper and what is going on for me right now? Where am I struggling? Where do I need support? Where do I want to grow? And then kind of going through, where do I want to take my business? How does that look? So, for example, in Greece, I started off the retreat with us really reflecting on what are your 1, 3, and 5-year goals? What's your vision for where you want to take your practice? Who do you want to be as a leader? So if you came to that retreat and you were really wanting to focus in on your leadership skills, then that would be something that you would take some more time to reflect on. Some of the other workshops that were presented were on metrics, like I shared, on building a leadership team, finding your number 2, and the other one was alternative income streams. What does that look like as a group practice owner? So looking at the program is important too. If you're going to go internationally, make it something that is actually relevant for you and where you're at with your business, because it's a big expense, both time-wise and money, and taking a break from everybody around you. So you really want to make sure you're not just doing this for fun. You're going to have some purpose to it, some intentionality, and looking at the big picture of that. Nationally or local retreats. So using the example of what I plan, if you come to one of my retreats, we're going to different provinces across Canada. And the reason why I do that is to make it easy for the people that are in that province to come and join us. It doesn't mean that it excludes anybody else, but I know that it is hard to take time away. If you are a parent, if you own your small business, if you're feeling overwhelmed at all, even the thought of taking a plane to go from BC to Alberta, an hour away, can feel like that is just too taxing. So that's one of the reasons why I go across the province, across the country. I will say, though, that again, that element of getting yourself out of your environment does something to your mindset and to the intentionality that you have for the retreat. So if you have an opportunity to attend a retreat that is in another province, go for it. Getting on that plane is just something like, again, I am intentionally taking this time. I have to get on a plane in order to go there. How am I going to use this time? It also, if you do something local, it also tends to take less time away from all of the other things. It also tends to exclude bringing your family along. So the international one, quite often it's an adventure. The local ones could be a little more like, this is actually for me. I'm setting this time aside. How am I going to use that? And you can really focus on your strategy, your structure, and your connection without using all of that travel time or cost. It's something that you don't need to have a passport for. And there's something about connecting with, that those people get you and the issues. Using my retreat as an example. So if we're in Ontario, that the majority of the people that are there understand the social work college, they understand CRPO, they understand all of the things that comes with the college nuances. If you are coming in BC, then you're going to know that most people will understand the BCACC language. We're coming up to a college, what some of the nuances are in your province. And again, going to reiterate, what are you going to get out of that retreat? What is being offered? And is that something actually relevant to where you're at and where you might want to be stretched right now? Sign up with a friend, get somebody to go with you, or intentionally go on your own. And it's okay if in that group of people to participate in some of the group events, but also to say, I need some quiet time. I need to go and focus in on this area of my business. And I want to walk away with this takeaway from this retreat. Finding specific people to talk to while you are away is really good to do in either of these types of retreats. That intentionality. And actually, as I come to the solo retreats, which is another way that I think is important to retreat as a group practice owner, while I'm saying have this intentionality, I also am going to encourage you in each of these that intentionality is for downtime too. So I have been a huge proponent for solo retreats. I go on one every summer. I take a weekend away. I go somewhere locally so that travel isn't a lot, but I'm removing myself from home. And when I first started doing them, I would work pretty much every minute of that day while I was eating. I wouldn't really do much relaxing. I have had to learn how to relax. That has been an adventure. I love the business side of things, and having that business or having that weekend set aside in order to really focus in on the business. Something happens when I take that time away. All of a sudden, like the ideas start flowing and I get creative, and it's so fun. But one of the things that I've had to learn in that solo retreat is I also need to set aside time to do nothing, to go for a walk or to get a spa treatment, to maybe watch a couple of my favorite shows, have really good food that I don't have to cook. Having some of those pieces really enforces that. So let me give you a story of how this was really enforced for me. A few years ago, I decided to go on a retreat over to one of the islands that is close to me. I have to catch a ferry. It's a very small island. I get all set up and I'm, starting to work, and the battery on my laptop starts to fade. Okay, well, let me go find my charger. I forgot my charger. Kind of crucial when you are away on a planning retreat to be able to use your laptop nowadays. So I kind of freaked out because it was a small island and there was no Apple Store on the island. So it was kind of a forced slowdown time. I found a Facebook group and I posted in there, where can I find a cord for my MacBook? You're going to have to go back to the mainland. Okay. And then some very kind soul took pity on me, and they're like, I have some Mac chargers. You're free to come and borrow if you want to. And it was so amazing because not only did I borrow it from them, I borrowed the wrong one. And then I had to go back again and get the right one. So they were so kind. But that just, again, I had to wait for this time. I couldn't use my laptop. I couldn't be planning and visioning. And as I took a breath and slowed down and just really reflected on what do I need from this weekend, I realized I needed that downtime. So, deep breath. I took a deep breath. I slowed down. And what happened was when I got that charger, I wasn't actually as motivated to get as much shit done that weekend. And that was okay because as I slowed down, I went for a walk. I went and had some dinner. I went and got the charging cord. My brain started to have some of that flow. What do I need for my business? But I actually started to reflect more on what do I need for myself. It clears out the mental clutter and it helps you to return home more present than you might have been before. So while you are taking aside time, you're setting aside time for CEO time, really intentionally thinking about your business and where do you want it to go, set aside time for you. If you cannot be sustained, if you are not being refilled as you go through this retreat time, as you go through your experience as a group practice owner, building a business, if you're not being taken care of, your business can't be taken care of. And I have another example of this. So when we were in Greece, I intentionally booked another week aside for vacation and for taking care of me. I had my daughter with me, one of my daughters with me, and I figured if we're going to go that far across the world, we might as well make a bit of a vacation for it. And I struggled the first day that we had nothing planned. I had this retreat. We've already started to kind of come down because I spoke first. So I got to enjoy the rest of it. We did a lot of fun things. But when I sat there by the pool and all I have to do is read a book for pleasure, I should be doing something. I should be planning things. We should be making the most out of this time. Am I going to regret not seeing things? And as I kind of took a deep breath and melted a bit in the sunshine, honestly, that was so refreshing and revitalizing. I needed that slow time. And so whichever retreat that you choose to do, I really want to encourage you to incorporate that in it. So what would it look like if you're going on a retreat? How would you have intentionality in each of these retreats? So let's start the reverse of how I've been saying things. So solo retreats. The intentionality for me, I set it before I go. I set out an agenda. Usually I list off way too many things that I want to accomplish during that time. And I put a star beside the ones that I really need to walk away with. So for me, I like to do it in the summer because the fall feels like that's kickoff time. And so I will say, where do I want my business to go in the next year? Where do I want to be this time next year? Who do I need to be connecting with, either bringing in to the business or letting go of or growing within the business? Some of those pieces in there, but really setting that agenda so that when I walk away from the retreat, I can see I accomplished these things out of that list, or I can delegate these things that I didn't get to, or what I'll actually do at the end of the retreat with what I didn't accomplish, I'll set that into a task list and prioritize those things for the coming year. What does that look like? When does this need to be done? Who can do this kind of thing? And now in that intentionality too, with that kind of agenda, I also will put in, what am I going to do for myself? If you like to go to the gym, if you like to run, if you want to get out and walk in nature, and if you want to go for a really good meal, if you want to just have veg time, if you need to be able to sleep in, incorporate some of those things as you plan ahead for the retreat. And then I would say, while you are there so we're still talking solo retreats, have flexibility. So those bumps in the road, if you forget your charging cord like I did, or if you realize you need more planning time or you need more downtime, have the grace as you start that retreat to go, okay, I'm going to see what flows out of this and what I need to walk away with. I would say, though, that you really want to have that intentionality and you want to walk away with having accomplished at least one or two things to check off that list so that you can come back motivated, refreshed, and have that vision and to feel like this was worth the time away. If you're going on a national or local retreat, I would again set some of that intentionality. I touched on this a little bit earlier. Is there anybody who's attending that you really want to talk to? Maybe the presenter is somebody that you've really wanted to learn from or really want to dig into a specific topic. Is there another attendee that maybe you've heard of or you knew from another retreat that you want to spend some time with? And again, that intentionality, what's being taught at this retreat? What do I want to walk away with? What do I need to take care of me as I go through this retreat? So do I need an extra day or two on either side of the retreat to do something for myself, to have some of that focus in time? Do I need to just arrive the day of and leave the day of because of family commitments? Really hone in on how do I maximize this time for me, personally, professionally, and physically, emotionally, all of those things. That might include an agenda. I tend to love lists, but you may just consider also, as you look at what the agenda for the time is, really honing in on which part do I really want to be paying attention and digging into. For the international retreats, same kind of thing as the national local, because it's being led by somebody else. What is the material being presented? What do I want to walk away with? How do I want to grow as a leader as a result of this retreat? What do I need on either side of this? So if this is something that I'm going to adventure on either side by myself, I know one of the attendees at the Greece retreat, it was her 50th birthday, and so she was celebrating in style. But one of the things that she set intentionality for was after the retreat, she came with specific journal questions for herself, and she set aside 2 or 3 days to just really hone in on that, do some yoga, do some meditation, meditative walking, and take some of that downtime to integrate what she had learned and to reflect on where she was at and where she wanted to go. So setting that intention, setting the path for how you want that time to go is important. So why do retreats matter? It's a step away. It's a time to refresh. It's a time to connect with yourself and possibly with others. It's not necessarily a luxury. I would say retreats are essential, whether it's just by yourself and a weekend or it's a bigger thing. Having that connection is so important. Having that time, that intentional time to look at who am I, where have I grown, where do I want to grow, where do I want my business to go? I would say that that's important at any stage of group practice owners. And I think it's also a good leadership practice. So having that time to reset, to reflect, to realign, you actually model that for your team as well. And so as you are saying, hey, it's really important for us to connect, we have these team meetings, we have these other offerings, and then you're modeling, setting that time aside, it can be crucial. It can be really a good leadership model as you are building and growing your group practice. When I give myself time to step back, I lead better when I step forward. So I'm going to say that again. When I give myself time to step back, I lead better when I step forward. So the leadership challenge for this episode. This week, I invite you to think about what kind of retreat you need right now or in the coming year. Maybe it's a weekend away with peers. Maybe it's a few hours alone with your notebook and a good cup of coffee, a weekend where it's just you. What space would help you to come back clearer, calmer, and ready to lead? As you consider that, if you are craving a mix of connection, clarity, and support, that's exactly what we provide and cultivate within the group practice connection. That is a place to know that you are not alone. It's a place to grow. I know it's not a retreat, but it is intentional time. We have 3 meetings a month. 3 meetings a week would be way too much, where you can connect with others and have intentionality about your time, about your CEO role. You don't have to fly off to Greece to reset. Even just having one intentional day off can bring huge clarity. And so I'm going to encourage you to schedule that time for yourself. And I will put a plug in. We're going to be going on retreat in Ontario in October 2026. Look for that information if you're looking for something locally in Canada. And that feels like that would be something that fills that bucket and helps you reflect and realign and just connect with yourself. I would love to hear from you if you actively participate in retreat. What does that look like for you? Send me an email, and I look forward to connecting with you soon. Thanks for hanging out with me on Empowered to Lead, the therapist practice. If you're ready for deeper support, I'd love to see you inside the Group Practice Connection, my monthly membership where Canadian therapists like you get coaching, community, and the tools to build a business that actually supports your life. You can check it out at grouppracticenetwork.ca. We're building something great here, and I'm so glad you're a part of it.
This is Michelle Abraham, and we are honored to have Lisa Catallo's Empowered to Lead podcast on our High Vibe Podcast Network. For more shows like hers and to grab your free gift from the gift fold, head on over to highvibepodcastnetwork.com.